Hello, everybody. A very warm welcome to the Reiki Revolution Live. So I'm just waiting to see if there are some people who are tuning in today. Yeah, there are quite a few already. This is great, especially in this weather. It's really beautiful here in London, and I've just come from Germany. They had a bit of a heat wave, and I can see in many parts of the rest of the world it's very nice. Well, the northern hemisphere, it is very nice and summery. So thank you for joining. And it's going to be a really interesting topic, and I thought long and hard how to tackle it, because there are just so many ways of getting into this topic. I'm just going to see a little bit. There are some people saying hi, which is so lovely. It's so nice to have people here from all over the world, from Canada, from the USA, from various European countries, from Asian countries. It's a real way of bringing people together, and it's also so interesting to have people from different cultural backgrounds. And maybe this would be a good starting point to look at the idea of reincarnation. Different backgrounds. My background when I was younger was so not connected to reincarnation. In my mind, I wouldn't even have known how to pronounce it properly, I suppose. It just wasn't my line of thinking. I thought I was born into this world, I grow up, I get older, and at some stage I leave this world. When I was in my teens and I held this worldview, I was very evangelical, very devout Christian. And I thought, well, after this life, you end up in heaven or you end up in hell. And I was pretty determined not to end up in hell. So I somehow felt I would probably make it into heaven without trying too hard. But that was pretty much my worldview. And somehow this got shattered when basically my life got shattered when I became bankrupt in my mid-30s. I just lost everything, and I was looking what else to do, and I didn't quite know. And a friend took me to a reading with a psychic medium, and this was just absolutely surreal. And I mean surreal. It was beyond anything that I ever thought would possibly or could possibly be real. This guy, just a very normal guy in his, I think, 60s or so, he was giving me messages from people I had known, most of them I had known in my life, but who had died. He said there was somebody around you. He feels like family, but he's not family. Alfred, he's holding his chest. So that's the image he was giving. And the medium interpreted that as wanting to show that he died from a lung problem. And that is exactly how my uncle Alfred died. And there were some amazing, well, there was names, there were situations about my life that nobody could possibly know about except for the person involved and the person that actually gave this message. So this was extraordinary. It was absolutely fascinating, and it instilled this pretty unshakable belief in me that life does not end with death. So that was the starting point. But then I read a book, and this book was Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, and he was describing the world in a way that everybody is reincarnated here. that we come and go. We are born, we live our life, we are dying, we move, we transition to another energetic level, and then we stay there for a while, and then we come back. We come back into another incarnation. And interestingly, we don't come back as Thorsten 2.0. We come back as a completely different person, in a different gender, in a different culture, in a different ethnicity, in a different region. And this is just absolutely fascinating. So now something is very loud in here. And please excuse me, I feel I just need to get up and close the door. Hopefully this will mitigate the noise a little bit. Well, that's the beauty of a live show. This is much better. I hope you couldn't hear it too much, but there was this very, very strong noise coming in through the door. So the idea in this book was that we come again and again and again. And at some stage, I thought, well, if this makes sense, then what about my past lives? What about the experience I had? And this basically came to a point at some stage when I thought, why do I struggle with what I'm doing? And what I'm doing at that stage already was teaching Reiki, being a spiritual teacher. And I wondered why I struggled with that, why I felt I couldn't almost be myself. I needed to fulfill a certain role as a spiritual teacher. But on the other side, I also wanted to have a normal life. And I read a book called Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss. And I did a training as a past life regression therapist with him. And during that training and before, I had a few past life regressions. And just to answer the question, in case you're interested, what came up for me was that I was somehow a spiritual seeker and a spiritual teacher for many incarnations, but I never saw myself connected in a romantic way. I was always on my own. So I was living like a hermit. I was teaching. I was kind of helping people. I was meditating, but I lived a very reclusive life and not a normal life. And it seemed, or it became very clear to me that in this lifetime, I wanted to be normal. So my partner is now probably thinking, well, this is why you are sometimes so weird, because you haven't had much experience in previous lifetimes about being in a relationship. So it's interesting. For me, this was a great breakthrough, but it also brings us to a point to ask, why are we reincarnating, and why are we reincarnating into different lives and different shapes and different experiences? Well, my understanding is that we are looking at life from different angles. And so this time I'm a man, middle-aged. Well, wasn't always, but this is my experience in this lifetime. In another lifetime, I was a woman. In fact, I was really quite pretty. In the very first past life regression that I was taken into, I saw myself as a really beautiful woman in an ancient setting. It was probably 2,500 years ago. And suddenly I thought, I look like Cleopatra. And not only that, I look like Elizabeth Taylor playing Cleopatra. And I thought, that's ridiculous. I'm just visualizing that. And the past life regression really isn't working. But then it turned out that I just looked a bit similar, but I was a woman. I was kind of working in connection with a temple. I didn't understand what I was doing. I was very afraid, and I took the whole life to finally get some more depth of understanding and find a way to overcome this fear and to rest inside. And then I was able to share that. So I think it's interesting to get these experiences or these images and ideas about past life. But often people say, well, it looks a bit like a movie when we are in a past life regression. Is that really us? Or are we just imagining it? Well, I've had a few experiences myself and of people around me going through past life regression. And this really made it very clear for me that there is a lot of proof in there. I remember my mum being in, well, I don't remember. I remember her recalling that she had a past life regression and was somewhere in the south of France. And she said the windows in these ancient medieval castle were very strange, because she normally just knows windows that have some kind of arch on the top. But these had like a round shape at the bottom. And she thought that was just very, very weird. But she was adamant that this is how she saw it. And then a while later, we were traveling in the south of France. And we went to a ruin of a Cathar castle from the, I think, 13th century. And suddenly Mum stopped and said, this is what it looked like. And there were windows that were actually rounded at the base. We also went to Carcassonne, a beautiful rebuilt or partially rebuilt medieval town. And when we arrived there, my mom said, this looks so familiar, but something is wrong here. Something is wrong with the towers, the shapes of the roofs of the turrets. They just don't make sense to me. And what she didn't know, and we found out subsequently, was that in the 19th century, when part of the city wall or tower were rebuilt, that the hobby, historian who was running it, he came up with the shape of the turrets, but it was nowhere near the original shapes. So I could come up with quite a few experiences that I had myself and other people, and that really made it quite unshakable. The idea that we incarnate again and again and again. So this for me is the starting point. And of course, when we understand or when we accept that this is one of many incarnations, we look at this one in a different way. We look at life in a different way. First of all, hopefully, we have less fear. Because no matter what happens in this life, what we experience, whatever we have in terms of accidents or illnesses, the worst thing that can happen is that we lose our lives, or that we go through a time of suffering. But the suffering does not continue on the other side, and we have, or we will have, another lifetime. And for me, this is very, very reassuring. And it also explains a lot about Reiki, because when we start using Reiki, we feel we are connected to something higher, something that's almost beyond this life. And it is, because we are connecting to these higher levels in the universe where we are always connected to. And so Reiki goes beyond the limitations of time and of space here, because we are automatically connected to a higher level of experience. Now, what I find fascinating when it comes to reincarnation is there is a lot of fear connected with this. Some people don't really want to know what they've been in a past incarnation, because they feel they have done some pretty horrible things. And it's well possible that we have. But now we are here in this lifetime and we have another goal. Often people think of the idea of reincarnation or another lifetime as being either punished or being rewarded. And I actually feel that this is a misunderstanding. We may sometimes carry memories and almost a story from a previous lifetime and continue working on the theme in the next life. But in my experience, often, or what in my experience from doing past life regressions, is that we look at life in different ways. So in one life, we may be a rather unpleasant person. In another lifetime, we may experience what it is like to be surrounded by someone or by quite a few people who are unpleasant. So we kind of often experience things from different viewpoints. And of course, experiencing life as a man or as a woman is fascinating, but it is a very different viewpoint. And so I feel that once we take the idea of guilt, of punishment, or of reward out of the idea of reincarnation, it becomes much easier because we experience and we learn. My understanding is that after a lifetime, after an incarnation, we of course reflect on it and we learn and we develop. So my big question is, if we've done that for numerous times, for dozens, hundreds, maybe 1,000 times, incarnation after incarnation, haven't we really learned, or can't we get to a point at some stage where we feel, well, we look at life from this perspective, from that perspective. We are the bad guy, we are the good guy, we are suffering, we are enjoying things. Why can't we change this trajectory and create a world where there's less suffering, where everybody can enjoy themselves? We all had accidents. We all had the most extraordinary, horrific experiences, very likely done pretty harsh, negative, horrible things to other people. And the same has happened to us. So isn't it time, with some soul searching, or indeed reconnecting with our soul, to realize, well, I can actually change things. I have understood the principle of the universe, the idea of reincarnation, and now I want to make a difference. And I do really feel that once we get to that stage, then we can really create a different life and a different world. I'm very certain, though, that we as people who have this spiritual awareness, who are practicing Reiki, who want to bring healing into the world, who are very likely suffering a lot because we are empaths, and it really gets to us how other people suffer and what's happening in the world. I'm sure that we've had quite a few incarnations that led to where we are right now. So maybe we should dig a little bit deeper and see what we can do in this lifetime to really overcome this idea of, okay, this lifetime is good, this is not so good, here we are struggling, this is a little bit easier, and so on. Why can't we create more positivity, more love? And I'm just reading something here, whether we are able to change our soul contracts. Well, there was a lot of discussion around soul contracts. I've made a contract when I jumped into this incarnation to be of service, to learn to be humble, to experience suffering so that I can change. Well, really? We are a spiritual being in a body. So if I'm honest, soul contracts to me are only part of the bigger picture. I'm sure we have set some kind of goals of what we want to learn and what we want to experience, but we also still are a spirit in a body, and we can overcome the limitations and the challenges, and we can really step into our spiritual power. And I would really like to ask to do that for a moment and to ask Reiki for help and ask Reiki to inspire you and to just remind us what we can actually do in this very incarnation. So let's just do that for a moment. I would like to ask you to just bring your hands together and close your eyes and connect to Reiki, and just take a moment to feel the connection. And then just ask Reiki, how can I turn my experience and what I learned in previous lifetimes now into making this a lifetime where I can bring real change? What can I do in this lifetime? And then just move your hands up to your third eye and just listen to information that you're given. And then just bring your hands back and just place your hands on your heart for a moment and let Reiki flow to just let this really resonate. And then just take a moment to thank Reiki and come back into the here and now. I was just glimpsing at the comments, and there was one, this transformational moment in time is so perfect for this topic. Well, I suppose this is with regards to what's happening in the world, with regards to politics, with regards to wars. And without wanting to imply any judgment on what exactly is happening right now in the world. But when we look back at previous lifetimes, not just the probability, but also when we go into past life regressions, so often we see ourselves as warriors, as soldiers, as being incredibly impacted by wars, or as fighting in wars and impacting others. So isn't it time to find different ways of reaching out, of learning, and of course, of realizing that the people we are fighting against may be the very same ethnic group, nation, religious group that I was a part of in my past life or in a past life. And I think this is fascinating when we start realizing that. I did a little bit of was almost like a jigsaw puzzle, putting together my path of learning and understanding over the last, well, quite a few incarnations. And this is why I titled a book I wrote, Proof of Reiki, which is the scientific and experiential proof of Reiki, but also proof of eternity. And for me, proof of eternity is this realization we have been here before, and we can actually get proof through, well, past life regression and mediumship. And for so many people, this is very much part of their Reiki journey, opening up to the idea that we have been here before and communicating with people in the spirit world. It's unbelievable how many people get experiences of a presence. They sometimes get messages when they give Reiki treatments. I had a lady in a Reiki treatment, and she said she had a whole kind of conversation with her mother in the spirit world. So we can get these connections, we are kind of building a bridge into the spirit world through Reiki. And of course, that makes this understanding of we've been here before and life goes on much, much clearer. When it comes to punishment, and I feel this is really, really important to point that out, I don't really feel that we are being punished. We are punishing ourselves because we often want to learn something differently in another lifetime. But there are sometimes really funny ideas. I once read this, I think I read this story about a statue of a Buddha and a fly, like a little fly. And the fly was constantly circling round the Buddha. And the idea was that in its next incarnation, it will, it might even achieve, I think the idea was not even to achieve something for the next incarnation, but not to have to incarnate again, because this fly would have reached enlightenment. Well, quite frankly, this is not my line of thinking. But it is certainly very likely that having reincarnated so and so many times, at some stage, we may have developed so much that we may not need to incarnate anymore. And we may stay at a level as an advanced master, an ascended master, an ascended light being, and be able to help others. But we are still part of this universe. Of course, another question that often comes up is whether the same refers to animals. And my understanding is, yes, absolutely. Animals reincarnate as well, again and again. And of course, their souls in a body is just a different experience. And I rarely do that, but I need to look at my notes, because I made a few points and wrote a few things here. But I feel indeed that quite a few things we have covered. Ultimately, it's far more complicated, because we are thinking in terms of reincarnation in a linear way. We incarnate, we live, we die, we get to the spirit realm, we stay there for a while, we decide how we want to incarnate again, and we jump when the time is right into the next incarnation to have another experience. But of course, time is something that we experience as part of this universe. It is not an ultimate, it's not part of the creation, but it is not the ultimate ruler. There is Well, an experience, there is a vibrational level beyond time and beyond space. So ultimately, what we see as a linear way, one after the other, may indeed happen all simultaneously. And all the whole world, everything that's happening is happening at the same time. We just experience it in different ways. And I tend to find that when we connect to Reiki, we sometimes really feel that we are beyond time and space. And we are reaching this level of awareness where we are our true soul, where we are the eternal being, that where we are true consciousness. And this is why I find Reiki so fascinating, because it can really give us this reassurance that there is more to us than the mortal body that we are in at present. And part of the experience, of course, is connecting to Reiki and just being in this space. And I would like to invite everybody to join a Reiki share for a few minutes, to connect to Reiki, to connect with everybody on this Reiki share. And you can even do that in a replay. And I had so much feedback. It is just really beyond time and space when you watch this in a few days' time and you connect to everybody on this Reiki share and you feel the energy and you feel you are part. And we being in this Reiki circle right now, we will feel everybody who will join in at a later stage. It's puzzling, mind-boggling, but absolutely amazing. And it's difficult to describe. I suppose or to explain, the closest to that is probably the idea of quantum physics, but it can be experienced. And this is what we are doing right now in this Reiki share. So when you're ready, just take a moment to connect to Reiki. And when you feel the connection, just set your intention to connect with everybody in this Reiki share who is here now and who will join at a later stage in a replay. If you've learned Reiki 2, you can use the connection or the distant symbol. Just draw that for a moment and feel the connection. And just let Reiki flow. Feel the connection. Feel the depth, the high vibrations, and then feel your connection with everybody, sharing it and experiencing a healing circle. Just feel the energy, the depth, the connection, the healing. And then you can bring your hands back together, take a moment to thank Reiki, and come back into the here and now. I'm just looking at the comments again, and there is a question how to incorporate past life regression into a Reiki session, or whether to keep it separate. Personally, I would keep it separate in a way that past life regression is just a particular technique to do with hypnosis normally, and it's just different. But Reiki brings so many unexpected experiences, and it may well be that there is a memory, just some feeling coming up about a past life or a past life connection. Sometimes people even see themselves in a previous lifetime, or they get an image of something, or they suddenly realize how what is happening in this life is connected with the previous incarnation. So these things can happen in a Reiki treatment, but apart from that, I would leave that and use that as different modalities. I just remembered that a while ago I saw a cartoon, and it showed somebody was it applying for a job, and the person flipping through the paper said, "Oh, very thorough resume," or as people say in the UK, CV, but maybe you should have omitted the jobs from your previous lifetimes. I thought it was very funny, but it's not too far from the truth, because some people say, "Oh, well, I was a princess in a past life, and this is why I have certain standards, or why I can't deal with certain things." So I'm sorry, this is rubbish. We may have some ideas still, or something may even hold us back from previous lifetime, and once we become aware of it, we can let go. But it does not entitle us to something in this lifetime. I was Julius Caesar. I was that. I ruled half of the world. So why am I not getting the same respect and success in this lifetime? Very, very simply, because this life we are supposed to experience something different. This is what reincarnation is all about. Well, just on this rather funny note, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for joining regularly, and the shows are every Tuesday again. It was really quite difficult earlier this year, but now they are back. And next week, I'm trying something different again. Let's see how that's going to work. I'm trying to do that in a location outside in nature. I am going to check whether the Wi-Fi is okay so that I can do it, and I'm going to do it with my phone. So I hope it's going to work, and I look forward to seeing you then again. I hope you're also checking out the short emails. Sometimes they are little clips from the YouTube shows. Often they are new clips as well. So please do check out the YouTube shorts and the TikTok videos and the Instagram videos and the Facebook videos. I'm trying to post them everywhere so that the connection is there, and just a little bit of a reminder, of an inspiration, of healing when we are struggling throughout the day. For now, have a wonderful rest of the day, and I just need to find the button to press, and I found it now. Bye-bye.